Today we are talking with IndyCar star James Hinchcliffe, driver of the number 29 Genesis Honda for Andretti Autosport. So let's get into it.
It's time for another On the Spot. On the Spot.
In your opinion, why do you think Team Discord has become so popular with racing fans recently? What do you think it is about all the chaotic energy that's so appealing to everyone when you guys are together?
That's a great question. I think what makes Team Discord appealing to people is, when you watch races on TV and you follow drivers on social media and all the rest of it, we always have to have a certain amount of professionalism. Our jobs are very serious. We represent a lot of companies and we're spokespeople for these companies, and it's sort of drilled into your head from a very young age in racing that you got to be buttoned up on camera and you got to represent your sponsors well. And I think with Team Discord, we've been able to relax a little bit. We're not specifically representing our sponsors in that same kind of way, and we're just sort of being ourselves a little more, and we have a lot of fun with it. And I think, people like when it's authentic and real. So if we're having fun, then the people watching are going to have fun.
It's one of the best streams to watch when the race is on.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you like it.
On Twitter, Rossi had mentioned that there might be some Team Discord merch soon, at least a shirt. What can you tell the Twitch fans about that right now? When we get back on the track, will everybody be rocking a nice shirt?
I would say that certainly by the time we're back on the racetrack, there's a very good chance that everybody could be sporting Team Discord shirts if they want. Yes. So stay tuned.
Just a quick side question, since we're discussing merch, Funkos. Derek at Toronto Motorsports said he talked to Funko and they weren't interested in IndyCar despite having NASCAR, hockey, and tennis, among other sports. I've read comments saying IndyCar isn't popular enough, which makes me even more determined. I'm wondering if maybe you and Genesis went to them directly if we could get an exclusive one-off Hinch Funko at Toronto Motorsports. What are your thoughts?
I think that's a great idea. I think that they are missing a great opportunity with IndyCar. And though I respect their position, I think that we can prove them wrong. And so, there's nothing wrong with me going to Genesis and trying to have us go straight to Funko. And if we've got to fund the first round to prove that the popularity's there, then we can maybe get the whole field covered.
Ooh. So as IndyCar's undisputed popular driver, how do you feel about being left out of the virtual race at Indy? Since even IndyCar on NBC says it wasn't technically the Indy 500, should all 39 of you be able to race?
Yeah, so, yes. I was certainly disappointed to not be part of the race. You put in a fair amount of hours practicing to try to get in the show, but I'll admit I didn't put in as many hours as some of those other guys, so I guess I didn't really deserve it in that sense. But I'm with you. It's not the real Indy 500. In the virtual world, you can have as many cars as you want. I think we should just let everybody race, because I know I really wanted to, and Robbie really wanted to, and Kyle Busch really wanted to, and the other guys that didn't get in. So, it would have been fun if we had made it. But what really matters is the actual Indy 500 in August. So I'll save all my good luck for that.
In hindsight, and judging by your tweet the next day, are you kind of glad you avoided being any part of that drama and chaos?
Yeah, I definitely don't feel like I missed much. Let's put it that way. And to make sure that I wasn't involved in any of that stuff is probably, in hindsight, kind of a good thing.
Are you on the side of thinking it'll be left on the virtual track, or will there be grudges spilling out when we get back on the real world?
I've said from the second race in Barber that I thought that real life rivalries were going to be started because of online racing, and I still feel that way. I think that for the most part, most people understand it's just online racing, and that the real thing, the consequences are much higher. So there's no point kind of carrying over any grudges or beefs. But at the same time, it's going to be in the back of a few guys' heads. I know it will.
What do you have to say to any fellow drivers who might think about such virtual things and deciding on what moves to make when you guys get back in the real world racing at Texas Motor Speedway?
Yeah, it's interesting, because we're going to go to Texas and not have a ton of practice, yet every virtual race weekend, we had hours and hours and hours of practice. So it's going to be hard, I think, for some people, and maybe especially the rookies that haven't raced there before, to kind of flip that switch and realize that, there's no reset button and you don't get any quick repairs. And it hurts a lot more when you make a mistake at the real place. So, I think we all understand that it's pretty unique circumstances that we're in going back to Texas, but everybody's just so excited to go back racing that I think we're all going to, be smart and be calm and take it easy until the last couple laps.
Had you started the race, do you think you would have avoided any technical issues that have been plaguing you? Seems like you just can't get the bugs out even at the elite racing event the other night. What is going on over there?
It's a great question. It's a very good question. I mean, the bug the other night, that's a glitch in the software. That one's not even on my end. The other ones I think kind of were. So it doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. It all just sort of piles on me for some reason. Here's the thing. Here's the joke I was making before, right? In the real season, I'm only scheduled for 3 races, and even though we had a 6-race virtual championship, I only made 3 of them, 2 because of technical glitches and 1 I didn't qualify for. So technically, I only did as many races as I should have.
Have you had a chance to test the aero screen in real life yet?
I haven't, no. And this all kind of happened. Everything with the shutdown happened before I even had a chance to get into Andretti and do a seat fit. So, they were obviously focused on St. Pete. We thought we had lots of time to get ready for our first race. And obviously they've kind of been given only a couple weeks now. So at some point here, I'm going to have to sneak into the shop and get my seat done and make sure I fit in the car properly. And that'll actually be my first time sitting in the car with the aero screen.
So from your unique perspective, what is it like learning your way through a video game? Have you already grown accustomed to the aero screen yet?
Well, yeah, that's actually a great point, because from the driver's view, you've got this, thing in front of you. So you kind of learn how it obstructs your view a little bit. And a lot of the guys that have driven it have said that it's actually harder in the video game, because you don't have proper depth perception. You're just kind of looking at a 2D surface. And so it's been interesting to see kind of areas of the racetrack where it might be kind of an issue, but I think the game has helped a little bit. It's going to be a little bit different once you get in the real car, but it's been good to have a little bit of a practice.
It seems like it's just so annoying in the way when I'm watching it on kind of daily screen. It's like it's there, but you don't see it, but you do, and it's annoying for me sometimes, and I'm not even the one playing. So kids want to play IndyCar too, like me. Do you think there should be a completely new game made for just IndyCar on Xbox or PlayStation consoles where you guys can still use your sim rigs, similar to what F1 has been doing? Or do you think the future is in iRacing and it may be difficult to create a whole new game now?
I think it kind of goes down to the same issue we've got with the Funkos, is that I think it's perfectly doable to do an IndyCar game, and I think it would be great to have a dedicated IndyCar game, because where iRacing is so good is it really does replicate the whole experience so well. You can do everything, your strategy, but having a little bit more of a easier to use, easier to follow, game that has drivers and the cars and their sponsors in it. I think, and they know all the F1 cars and all the drivers because of that game. In iRacing, you're yourself. You play as yourself. They teach people about the drivers and the cars.
You tweeted out you'd be interested in having a winter esports series, and the idea of an esports IndyCar community has been in the works for years now, according to Marshall Pruitt and Mark Miles. We've all heard comments through drivers like Rossi and Rahal about exhaustion after only 6 races. Do you think the participation will be there for another go, even if improvements are made? How do you see an iRacing off-season developing?
So I spoke in the Marshall Pruitt article that I think it's a great idea to have a winter championship, and for sure all the drivers felt absolutely exhausted after the 6 weeks that we did for this one. But I think you can take lessons learned, format it a bit differently, spread it out over a longer period of time, And it's little things like not telling us which tracks we're doing until 2 days before. So you can't spend, 2 weeks practicing. You can only spend 2 days, which is still a lot of time, but it's a little bit more manageable. So I think it was a really good experiment, and I think that we learned a lot of lessons. And I definitely think that there's room to have something like that for the winter to keep the drivers engaged, keep the fans engaged, keep the sponsors engaged. So I'd love to see it come back, as bad as I was.
A lot of fans have started watching the LCQ League, which is equally as entertaining as the IndyCar Challenge. Will we see that group grow over time, or are these the permanent players? How many of your other buddies are asking to get in on it now?
So yeah, the LCQ League was just sort of born out of Team Discord, and we've done it only just the one time, just last Monday so far, and it was an absolute blast, and I think the fans really enjoyed it. So we're going to be doing it a few more weeks for sure, but I think we're going to keep it kind of with the regular players. What we've sort of thought about doing was maybe adding one guest driver a week, because we have had a lot of people reach out and ask if they could be a part of it. So we're still working out the details, but I'd love to see a guest driver come in every week and bump fenders with us a little bit.
That'd be fun.
It can't be anybody too good, though. Part of what makes Team Discord so good is we're all equally terrible at sim racing. And so if we call in a ringer, it's just going to ruin it.
I'm so curious to talk with Travis Pastrana about his relationship with all of you. I might honestly have to ask him for an interview now. How well do you all know him, and how did you become part of the league?
So I first met Travis, years and years ago. It was 2012, 2013. It was when I was driving for GoDaddy, so it was one of those 2 years. And we did a PR event together at the Texas Motor Speedway, ironically enough, when he was racing in Nationwide. And, you kind of just sort of distantly stayed in touch. And the driving community is pretty small. We all sort of know each other. And over the years, different events or things, we'd run into each other sort of deal. And we ended up all getting invited to, actually, Alex and I, Rossi and I had Travis as a guest on our podcast, Off Track with Hinch and Rossi. And it was shortly after that, which was already after all the racing had shut down, that Travis told us about this, the Rallycross Championship that he was a part of, and invited Alex and I to participate in it. And then just through that, we've really, we've spent a couple hours a week, every week for the last, month and a half, bantering back and forth and racing each other. And so it's really just sort of grown from there.
Right. Sounds so cool. What a nice story. We've seen a few big name drivers from F1 and NASCAR and more race in IndyCar on iRacing, but not as much the opposite. Drivers like Norris, Button, Alonso, and Johnson are even talking about doing more in the series in real life. What do you think that says about the popularity of IndyCar when those guys and drivers like Dale Jr. and Kyle Busch all want to come do what you do, where you race in video games and in real life?
I think it's awesome, and I think IndyCar deserves a lot of credit for opening the door to those guys to come and race. I think if any of us were asked to go do one of the NASCAR races, we'd jump on it, but they just haven't been as inviting, I guess. Yeah, not in a bad way. They've got their reasons, I'm sure, but IndyCar made the effort to ask NASCAR drivers if they wanted to participate, ask, Scott McLaughlin if he wanted to be a part of it, and Lando Norris. And so it brought a lot of attention and eyes to what we were doing. And I think those guys saw how competitive our series can be and how much fun it can be. And we're all drivers. We all just want to race, So if we get the opportunity to do it in a different kind of car, I think we'd all take it.
And back to the Funko thing, how I said it wasn't as popular, other people said that. Well, look, there's other drivers from other places trying to be a part of IndyCar, so that must say something about the popularity.
That's true. That's a great point.
Earlier this year, you mentioned going IMSA racing to keep yourself busy. Is that still something you're looking at for this year? Or have recent events changed all of this?
Yeah, recent events definitely changed, everything for everybody. But for me, for sure, that it kind of adjusted my plans a bit there. So I'm not sure we're going to actually get the opportunity to get into a sports car this year or not. maybe later in the year once the IndyCar season is done. But for right now, we're going to focus on our 3 races in the car, and then, whatever we end up doing with NBC from outside the car through the IndyCar season. And if some opportunities come up sort of later, then for sure I'll want to jump on them.
How much sports car racing do you actually see in your career?
I mean, there's no reason to not see a lot of it. Like I said, we all just want to drive. And so if those opportunities come up, I'm going to take them. I've been fortunate enough to do the Daytona 24-hour race a bunch of times. And that's a phenomenal event. I really love it. And I'd love to add, Sebring and Petit Le Mans to the resume as well. And then one day, post driving IndyCar, a lot of guys kind of transition over to sports cars. So there's a big possibility for that as well.
So do you want to start slowly going into sports racing, or do you want to be like on a beach with Becky somewhere?
Well, can I do both? Can I just, sports car calendar is only 10 races a year, so I feel like...
True. And finally, some 5 quick quarantine questions.
All right.
What are some TV shows you've probably been spending way too much time watching?
All of them. So, like everybody, we burned through Tiger King in a very short period of time. We also watched Waco, which was super fascinating, which is on Netflix. And there's a show, it's older, it's 10-ish years old, maybe more actually, called Friday Night Lights, and it's about high school football. And I guess Becky watched it when it first came out, and I had never seen it, but she loved it and forgot everything that happened. So we've actually gone back and started watching old shows, not just focusing on all the new stuff. So we've been getting through our fair share. But again, the sim racing obligations have taken a lot of my time, so I haven't watched maybe quite as much TV as I would have otherwise, which isn't a bad thing.
Are there any movies you've finally gotten around to watching that you've been procrastinating before quarantine?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a really good question. We did actually. So Becky's favorite movie is Wizard of Oz. And, we've got this cool movie room in our basement, and from the minute we put it in, she's always like, we got to watch Wizard of Oz. And it was going to be like our very first night in the new TV room. We were going to watch it, and then we just didn't. We got sidetracked and went like years without watching it. So I felt terrible. But we finally have now watched her favorite movie in the TV room. So that was a good one to get through. I got some brownie points there.
It's a good movie. It sounds really cool. There's a movie theater
Classic.
in your basement?
There is now.
Wow. What is something you've learned about yourself during all of this, or even Becky, that you've never realized until you had to quarantine yourself?
You know what? What I've realized is something that I kind of thought I knew before, but going through quarantine with somebody like this, it makes it very true. And it's that Becky and I have a really good marriage because I know a lot of friends that are, 6, 7, 8 weeks into quarantine, and they just can't wait to get away from each other, and they need a break, and they need to just, and Becky and I wake up every morning, it's kind of like, all right, what should we do today? And it's been awesome. I mean, I'm not just saying that, we've really had, in a lot of ways, a great time with each other and just spending time together and with the dogs and everything. So I look around and a lot of other people are like really upset and really like ready to like not be with their partners anymore. And I'm like, I could do this for a couple more months if we had to. I don't want to do that because we want to go back to racing. You want the world to open back up. But if we had to, we could.
What's the first thing you're going to do when you are allowed to go back outside?
That's a great question. And it's so hard to answer because I feel like until you actually have that opportunity to make that decision, I don't know. Part of me wants to just go back to the way things were, but I think you understand that everything's different right now, and at least for a little while it's going to be that way. So I remember thinking to myself the other day, like, if I go to the racetrack, am I going to shake all my crew guys' hands? Is that something we still do in 2020? Because it seems like a Nicky thing in 2020, but in 2019 it was totally fine. You'd shake hands with a complete stranger. So I just don't know. I just don't know how I'm going to react in those situations. It's going to be interesting to see. But first thing, honestly, I think Becky and I will just go have a nice kind of dinner date somewhere because we love going out for a meal together, and we want to support, these industries that have been hit so hard by this. And so, going out to some local restaurants, I think will be top of our list. Oh, and a movie. We really want to go to a movie. I know I just said we have like a theater room in the basement, but it's not the same. It's not the same as going to a real movie.
How do you feel about shaking your hands with people after this?
I don't know yet. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see who kind of falls back into old habits and who has really kind of changed their mindset, with everything that's happened. And I just don't know which way I'm gonna go yet.
Are you gonna go outside and like really fast, way? Or are you gonna just take it slow?
I'll probably take it slow. I think we'll be step by step. You don't wanna jump in the deep end too quick and end up drowning. So we'll probably take it step by step and make sure it's all good and make sure everything's operating as it should be before we go too crazy.
So what are you planning to do Sunday, May 24th to keep your mind off the fact that you won't be at IMS where you should be? Have you already made any plans for Memorial Day weekend?
I haven't, but you know what? That's a great idea. I should probably start now, start trying to plan something. Maybe I'll jump in the car and drag Becky and we'll just go, park on 16th and just stare out at the Speedway, kind of like Garfield against the window, just looking at it and dreaming about being there in August.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I think I speak for all the Team Discord fans when I say I can't wait to see that bright orange car, whatever the name ends up being. I'm partial rebel myself. Under the lights in the Genesis 300 at Texas in a few weeks. I think we're all ready to get back in the real world.
I think you are absolutely right. And thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it.